What's going on, everyone? Jeremy here from the Quartering. A lot to talk about today, so I'm going to jump right into it. Ever since I put out that video on the pay cuts at Blizzard, many current Blizzard employees have reached out with information, both to correct some of the things I said and also to affirm some of the things I said. And there was some exceedingly juicy stuff that I wish I could have shared, but at the end of the day, I felt like it might be a little too personal. They might get outed. I'm always very careful with my contacts. And even in this situation, I'm not going to show their emails. I feel like I've established my credibility in this space. If I had to, I suppose I could. I just don't want to make any, I don't want to have any chances of them being figured out. So I wanted to ask about these bonuses. Now, I don't have any problem, to be clear, any problem with people making as much money as they earn. So I'm not dumping on people for getting big bonuses. I'm just establishing where we were at before and where we're at now. So it seems like if you were like a mid-level or a junior level employee, maybe let's say between 6 and 10 years of experience, during good times, you might have made bonuses as high as $50,000, which caused a lot of problems internally because people beneath you would see bonuses 1/5 of that. A guy like Brevik was rumored to have bonuses as high as $700,000 when, Diablo 2 was crushing it. But again, nobody really had a problem with that. In fact, everyone would always qualify things by saying, hey, I loved the guy. And things of that nature. Now, the new compensation model looks a little bit something like this. It looks a lot like every other company. Old timers took a big pay cut. Most of them were coasting anyway. And there are dudes, this is a thing, who haven't actually done anything in years. So, overall compensation at Blizzard is still good for a few reasons. Steady employment. Layoffs are very rare unless you're too opinionated, which that doesn't sound too surprising given how the video games industry is. Working at Blizzard is great for your resume. It used to be a golden ticket to whatever you want to do with your creative life, and it's still a huge boost to your ego. 3, working on really cool stuff. You get to work on franchises that millions of players will play. Blizzard is still a dream job for 99% of the people who want to work in games, and the new compensation is fair. This employee summarizes the problems at Blizzard is simple. HOTS quote failed. So Heroes of the Storm. Overwatch isn't king of the hill, and WoW isn't growing. Blizzard maintained its autonomy because it only delivered hits. Now that they've got a few L's under their belt, outside forces are going to use this as an excuse to make power plays. This is basic corporate BS, and if the next game doesn't do gangbusters, expect the company to get more incorporated into Activision's empire. And then I talked to another employee about compensation, and this is what they had to say. Blizzard has had a lower base pay for its employees, but lures them with promises of bonuses. I was making about $90K before I was hired at Blizzard, and Blizzard only offered me $70K with the promise of 2 yearly bonuses, performance bonuses and profit sharing bonus. But as a mid-level employee, the bonuses cannot go over 10% of your base income. So after the change, if you were a standard mid-level employee, this ended up not changing your yearly amount that much. Maybe it was even a raise considering how bonuses are taxed nearly 50% in California. So this is true. At a company I used to work with, we had big yearly bonuses, and they were huge numbers that, it was cool to beat your chest and be like, I got like a $25,000 bonus, but you would get taxed up the ass on them. It's the people who have been here a long time that took cuts because their bonuses were much bigger. Executives got a lot more perks, including tons of stock options that normal employees didn't have access to. So I'm not sure how much they were affected, but the elder Blizzard employees were getting big checks. We call it old Blizzard money. There isn't many of these people left, but many of them silently left the company as soon as this went down. Base pay at Blizzard is still lower than industry standard, but you pay for your passion, and they know they can get away with it. Okay, so these are two different people coordinating the same idea that the pay cut was more so at the higher level. But this person also went on to say, corporatism is absolutely gutting Blizzard right now. Morale is extremely low. And then the next person I want to take some nuggets from, at lengthy conversation. And I want to say that this person also went out of their way to respect David Brevik, saying, first and foremost, let me address the video of David Brevik. Immediately ahead of all of this, I greatly respect David. I think his work is very solid, and what he and Blizzard North did was an amazing footnote in the history of PC games. Even the OG concept of Diablo was a claymation turn-based game. But the rant he went on was incredibly unwarranted and misinformed. It's unfortunate that in the wake of Diablo Immortal, people are scrambling for any kind of dirt on the company, that they take stuff like this as gospel. Again, no mistake. I think he means no disrespect. Oh, I'm sorry. Make no mistake. David Brevik has some great games and has done a lot for PC gaming. He's a smart guy, but when you take these rants at face value, then what they really are, conjecture, you get a damaging wave of negativity whose only foundation is, well, I think. If you look up Brevik's work history, Brevik has had nothing to do with Blizzard as a company for 15 years. The man never saw the release of World of Warcraft. I'm serious. In 2003, he left to go found another company. WoW wouldn't even come out till the end of the following year. Blizzard and Brevik, the Blizzard that Brevik knows, he knows is one whose largest gaming event was Warcraft 3. That's substantially different than Blizzard from what it is, would become, and what it is right now. David is speculating on all this stuff with knowledge that he has of the company that he was passively a part of nearly 2 decades ago. So that's interesting. The jab at ousting executives is also misguided. Pardo left because he effed up what was Project Titan. Metzen left because he wanted to actually raise his family instead of just see them off in the off hours. The whole grand conspiracy that Activision is weeding out Blizzard execs is absurd and borderline insulting. The Blizzard that Brevik knows is one that was in the twilight years of Blizzard's success. You know, those lottery winners who get millions upon millions of dollars and blow it all in a year or two and end up homeless. Something similar happens with video game companies that happen into a genre-defining blockbuster games. Everyone who gets profit sharing from the company, then tiny company, gets massive checks, sometimes larger than your actual annual pay. But eventually there comes a time where everyone has to realize that the company just can't shotgun out 6-figure bonus checks to so many people each year. This is typically what happens when either the craziness of the success rides the wave until the company is bankrupt and defunct from expense, or the company wants to play the long game and set themselves to still exist in the future. Around the high point of WoW, Blizzard came to the conclusion that the good times won't be around forever and started to make an effort not just to spend money because they had it in pocket. The Blizzard 600 layoffs in 2012 was the final moments of the transition from the party Blizzard to the business Blizzard. Part of this was profit sharing becoming more sane in terms of scale. The older people who had been around since the founding still got very nice bonuses, but anyone who joined the company after Mists of Pandaria would be getting something a bit more fitting than what you'd expect from a normal AAA company. Now you want to talk about actual pay problems, let me lay this out for you. Those pay problems have been there for a very, very long time. This nonsense that was started by Activision is ignorant. And with Brevik, they were just covered up by profit sharing during the good times. Pay at Blizzard has always been low. Anyone who tells you otherwise either has a spouse who can support most of their expenses or work a job that puts them 3 tax brackets above the majority of the company. We work in the most expensive country in the U.S. county in the U.S., sorry, and the pay is dismal to compensate for that. If you walk the parking lot, you'll see cars with Uber and Lyft signs on them for second jobs. I know at least 2 vans that people that live out of campus and are homeless otherwise. Customer service reps in Irvine skip meals at work in order to afford rent. Many lower-rung employees have yet to even hit 30K marks for a year-to-date gross income. People who want to start a family have to leave the company because there's no way to afford it at what Blizzard is willing to pay. Commune houses of 5 or more Blizzard employees have sprung up to make rent more manageable. People commute from LA County because they would rather spend an hour driving to work on the I-5 during rush hour traffic than cut money out of their salary to afford to live 20 minutes away. The unfortunate truth is that many of us are exploited for our passion. Many people who fell in love with Diablo, StarCraft, and Warcraft work here because they believe the IP and are willing to take lower pay because it's a dream job. Anyone who speaks up will get dismissed by management as just being greedy. HR creates an internal website for our, quote, income and have the bottom line numbers include things such as government mandated healthcare, social security tax, and more. The result being money that is removed from my take-home pay being shoved in my face as if it were a higher salary. This is true. The school districts in Wisconsin do this too. The reason this exists is because if any of us were to take action, we'd be told that we're easily replaceable because so many other places want in on all that, want in on it all the time. So it becomes a choice, a project that you believe in and a game that your heart is dedicated to, or being able to afford a roof over your head. There was a brief glimmer of hope when the new CEO that we might be able to see change. Don't get me wrong, Mike was actually amazing, and he was always in the corner of the employees, but change to help make Irvine livable never came. But the recent fireside chat with Jay, the usual line of, well, we did a survey with a company that tracks salaries across the industry, came out and our hopes were dashed. Who knows if Blizzard employees will ever actually get the pay that lets them exist as humans and do more than just show up to work. I hope so, for our sake. Wow. Well, interesting rebuttals, and I think I'll just stop there. I have pages and pages and pages and pages of this, but the idea, I think the overall takeaway is Brevik was probably misinformed or using outdated information talking about how, you know, the corporate takeover is happening, but also that it really stinks to work at Blizzard, that they do exploit people's passions. And this is very common in the games industry. This is very common if you look at a company like Wizards of the Coast who produces Magic the Gathering, just read their Glassdoor reviews. Everyone says the same thing. They hired us because they know we loved Magic the Gathering and they didn't pay us anything and it sucked. And eventually, because I wanted to get on with my life, I had to quit. The idea that people are living in communes to afford to work at Blizzard is truly sad. A company that clearly makes plenty of money. I'm not saying that, you know, they have to pay more just because, but if this is true, that's really unfortunate. And honestly, I just hope those people decide to find work elsewhere because I don't think anything's going to change at Blizzard. Well, this doesn't paint a very good picture for working in the games industry, but I thought it was an important piece of information to share, and I thank the people who were brave enough to reach out to me as it's an important story to tell. Hope you enjoyed this video. We'll talk to you again real soon.